Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In fact, this is the first ever video on this channel. Now, in terms of FNAF theories, obviously. So if you could spare me a few more seconds and like and subscribe if you haven't already, that would be phenomenal. Now let's get into the video. There's always been this one detail in the books which I've not seen anyone say, probably because it requires the Tales games, i.e. the Tales from the Pizzaplex books happening in the game's continuity. But it's the fact that the Pizzaplex may have opened in 2018. My theory is that in the books called Bodybots, there's a story about the storyteller. It's basically a man called Mr. Bowers and Edwin who make the storyteller, but needs to get rid of the Mimic 1 program, but they die in the process. The storyteller is later scrapped. However, the Mimic 1 program prevails. Now, there's a specific detail in that story in the book that really annoys me as a FNAF fan for 8 years. And that fact says, and I quote, Edwin 40 years later. The last time we ever saw Edwin in the books was in 1978, or when I think the Mimic happened, when the Mimic was built. Which means that this story was happening in 2018, and if the Tales from the Pizzaplex books was true, then the Pizzaplex opened in 2018. But that can't be true, right? Well, this all lies on the fact that the Tales from the Pizzaplex books are canon to the games. But since we do see Tiger Walk in the canon games Help Wanted 2, this heavily implies the existence of the Tales games. It seems that the Pizzaplex must have opened by the year 2018. Now, many people presume the Pizzaplex would have opened by 2030 just by assumption. But we never got actual proof that the Pizzaplex must have opened by 2030, except one. The Faz Masquerade posters and birthday lists in the security breach imply that the game takes place in 2035. So if the Pizzaplex opened by 2035, it feels new. So the Pizzaplex must have opened by 2030 at least. Well, also including the Faz Life magazines, that probably suggests that the Pizzaplex takes place by 2030. Well, opens by 2030. But we can't just say that because the Faz Life magazines are very inaccurate. We know that there's been 19 editions, but it's barely a quarterly edition as they might suggest. In fact, it goes year by year, spring by spring. So no, we can't use the Faz Life magazines to have evidence. But what about the posters? Well, that's actually an easy answer to the question. We know from Glamrock Freddy that the animatronics get replaced from time to time, so that the fact the Pizzaplex might have been open for 20 years almost really isn't that far-fetched. This changes things not that much in terms of timeline to timeline. So let me just tell you some events and what would happen in what years, I think. 2013 now becomes a huge date since I believe FNAF 3, Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night happen. You may think that's bonkers, but it really isn't. Before Pizzeria Simulator, in terms of our timeline, we only saw Henry in 1998. FNAF 1, which I believe is when FNAF 1 happened. He probably has a lot of time to build all the animatronics he had in his Pizzeria Simulator by that point. Now, for all of you who say, well, the Pizzeria Simulator game, it says HRY 223. So it has to happen during 2023 to Pizzeria Simulator, right? Well, no. Yes, it would be a good way of saying the year by Scott Cawthon, but now as FNAF is progressing, I don't think it's suitable anymore for that date to be used. Now, as the Stitch Rate stories probably happen by now. If you believe in Stitch Line games, the epilogues in Tales from the Pizzaplex, which we do know heavily talks about the mimic, its current impact on the Pizzaplex. These stories about the mimic interacting with the Fazbear Entertainment construction crew and high school middle kids. Now, high school kids probably happened around 2014 to 2018 in my belief, I guess. Sorry. After that, obviously the Pizzaplex opens. Help Wanted happens and everything later on. It just makes sense. Most sense. Well, that's it. Does this change the law so seriously? Crazy? No, it doesn't. It simply adds on to it as well. It's just changing the years to certain things that explain why the Pizzaplex feels like it's always been there. Well, have a nice day, and please remember to like and subscribe to my amazing channel. And that's it from Bullet Springtrap.